Assalamu alaikum and a very good morning, children. Today we will start our third chapter, Isaac Newton. To start this chapter, first I would like to quote a saying of Newton which make easier for us to understand the personality of Newton. He says, "What we know is a drop. What we don't know is an ocean." Means, in spite of being such a big scientist, he thought there is still many things which we don't know and we have to work on them. And we know after him there are 1,000 discoveries in the field of nuclear energy, telecommunication, transport, etc. etc. Now, coming to the chapter, Newton was born in 1643. At the time of his birth, he was so thin and weak that his mother said he could easily fit in a small jug and no one expect that he will survive. But this small child became the greatest scientist in history. Newton was brought up by his grandparents who were farmers. At the age of 12, he went to King's School where he was mainly taught literature. But as Newton was more interested in machines, his teacher found him to be idle and inattentive. But later on, he decided to take interest in studies and stood first in the class. Means, when we decide to achieve something and work for it, we get it. His room was full of small tools which he had bought with his pocket money. This shows the interest of Newton in his work. He started building small mechanical devices like windmill, run by a mouse, floating lantern, and many others. His family wanted him to take interest in farming and taken him off from school. But Newton absolutely disliked farming. So with the help of his teacher and grandfather, he went back to school and graduated as top student. He was then admitted to Trinity College, Cambridge University to study law. But he didn't find this subject interesting. So he started studying mathematics and physics by himself. He got scholarship and wanted to start his university when, due to pandemic disease in England, university was closed for 18 months. Children, you also know nowadays we are having pandemic, that is coronavirus. So similar pandemic was at the time of Isaac Newton and university was closed for 18 months. When Newton was at home for a long time, he started his projects. He doesn't waste his time, but he finds this time to utilize on his project which was in his mind. He used a glass prism to split a beam of sunlight and prove that light has different colors. He also built first reflecting telescope which produced images clearer than other telescope at that time. Children, you must have heard about falling of apple from the tree and how Newton analyzed that apple falling straight towards the earth rather than moving upwards or sideways. This led his famous invention of motion and gravity. Law of gravity was discovered by Isaac Newton when he saw an apple falling straight on the earth and not moving upward or sideways. After the outbreak, he joined Trinity College as professor of mathematics when he was only 26 years. This shows how intelligent and genius he was, because to become a professor at the age of 26 is really shows his hard work. Finally, Newton announced his discoveries. First was law of gravity and motion. That means all the things attract towards the downwards, downwards. And second proved that earth is not perfectly spherical but slightly flattened around the poles and bulging around the equator. Previously, the scientists thought that earth is like a ball, spherical. But Newton proved this, that the earth is not round but slightly flattened around the poles and bulging around the equator. This discovery shook up the scientists' world beyond measure, because their calculation on earth was based on the assumption that earth is round. They have done all their calculations on the basis that earth is round. But now when Newton have come up with this idea that earth is not round, so they are all shocked. Newton became very popular after he published his book Principia, Mathematical Principles. This book was difficult to understand when it was first published. Students once criticized on this book and said, "There goes a man who has written a book that neither he nor anybody else understands." Means it was so difficult for them to understand that a group of students once criticized Newton, that there is a book that is neither understood by the writer nor by the reader. Newton worked as professor for 27 years. After his retirement, he worked for a government company that produced coins and helped catch people who produce fake coins. Newton died in 1727 at the age of 84. He was buried in Westminster Abbey, London. Now what we learn from this story, or moral of the story? First, when there is will, there is way. In order to meet his expenses, he used to work for wealthier students. That means Newton wants to study and he doesn't have money, but he used to do the work for wealthier students to get money and pay his tuition fees. That means when there is will, there is way. Interest and hard work only helps you to achieve your goals, not wealth. That means to achieve the one's goal, the wealth is not important, but actual is interest and hard work. So this is about this chapter. You should go and read this chapter and then try to do the exercises from comprehension section. Take the correct answer. A, there are 4, you can do it easily. Then B, based on the lesson, complete the detail about Isaac Newton. There is a picture of Newton and a box is made where you have to fill all the things about Newton. So these 2 exercises you can do at home. Okay, so today we have finished chapter number 2. Okay, see you. Allah Hafiz and have a nice day.